Research is completed on Critical Metals Corp. Let's get right into the foundings. Let's take a look at some of the basic numbers that set the premise, and then go over, in this case, a few red flags. So first of all, thank you to the community for suggesting this company. It's a micro cap company. The total size of the company is only just above 600 million American dollars as I'm recording this video. So that means great potential reward, but also very, very great risk. Just the way we like to see it here on Bull Nova. Fantastic. No price to earnings, very, very common in this case when the company is not profitable yet. So I dug into the numbers to try to get a feeling for where the business was heading before I started to look at some of the projects in this case. In terms of Critical Metals Corporation, they do not actually have revenue yet. So no income. They do have operating expenses, of course, so the company is slowly bleeding cash. This means that, alright, in order to survive and continue to do business, they will need to finance, take bank loans, or issue more shares. We can see shares issued decreased a bit year on year from 2023 to 2024. And we also see that they took on more debt that year. So net debt here from the latest breakdown here, 2024, the full year one, we see that debt was 13.7 million. So this is in thousands of dollars. This means that we're looking at slightly less than 14 million in debt for the company. And they did a tiny bit of buyback that year as well. So some ordinary shares retired. But in this case, I will not be surprised if we see new issuance of shares to keep the business afloat eventually, as cash on hand might be drained. We see current assets, that's the more liquid one. We can see cash and cash equivalents and receivables. Not very liquid, this company. So this is also in thousands. So we're talking 1.2 million in cash and cash equivalents. And then a small amount in receivables and prepaid assets as well. And then in non-current assets, we can see deferred assets and no breakdown. Not really sure what they're calculating in here, but after looking at projects, I'm going to estimate that this is, for example, mining rights to the lithium mine in Austria. That's how we say it, Austria. Jawohl. So the mining rights over there and the mine, some equipment that they're using for drilling purposes and prospecting. Because when researching the projects here, we can see that they're doing a lot of prospecting. This is basically a scratch ticket, in my opinion. It's a lottery ticket that you're buying. So they're partnering up here to pursue rare earth opportunities. And I think that this is also a bit of a red flag. It's very hype language in these press releases that the company is doing through, for example, Globe Newswire. We can see, for example, here, Critical Metals Corp surpasses 70% completion milestone of the Tanbreeze bankable feasibility study. That basically means if it's even useful to open a mine and drill and do anything there. So they're basically doing prospecting. I saw some more research looking at diamonds over in Greenland and rare earth minerals here and there. And this is also another red flag, except for, no revenue and this bit hype language. Also the fact that they seem to be spreading out between a lot of projects and with cash running a bit lower. It seems like they want to hype up stock price so they can do a new emission at a higher price and get more capital into the company. If I were management here, I would focus more on just developing and completing the lithium mine, the main project that's being hyped on, for example, certain news sources. Schwab Network did a report with the CEO of the company where he talked a bit about that mine. So some more focus on that rather than all of these different projects. They're spreading themselves thin. They're a tiny company. Just focus on the core, get those revenue numbers up, get to break even as fast as possible before cash runs out. That's the type of action that I want to see as if I were to invest in this company. But right now, just lots and lots of risk. And even if they were just focusing on this core mine, in this case, there's no guarantee that lithium is the future. It's huge demand, of course, because of batteries, but a little bit of research and they talk about natrium-ion batteries and other types like that. Of course, I'm not an engineer. I don't know a lot about battery technology, and it makes it very, very difficult to substantiate that information and see, is this actually an overhang, a red flag, a risk to business going forward, or is it just nonsense talk? So that alone would also make me skip this investment, because there's plenty of other companies out there that's way, way easier to understand, has less complex organizational structure with, parent companies and daughter companies, and it's quite the network in this case that has revenue and where there are less projects to try to keep track on. If I were to put a lot of money into this company, it would be an absolute headache to try to keep up with all of these drilling results that they are reporting on in press releases. Just follow up, absolute nightmare. So for very, very active investors who know about the mining industry, who know about battery production, well then perhaps it can be a play. But in my case, I'm going to sit this one out. A very, very good suggestion nonetheless. Small cap stock, loving that. That's the type of stocks that are scratch tickets that can give fantastic results and that also can go bankrupt, very likely when they're this small and not a lot of cash. And this one just has a risk to reward ratio that, a perceived risk to reward ratio from my perspective, that's not worth it for an investment. Alright, that's been it for this video covering Critical Metals Corp. And as always, hope you guys make a ton of money, whatever investments you decide to make. Take care now. Bye bye.